Shut up and sit down.
This is the Uncensored Voice. No bullshit, just real shit.
Discussing things that will stir the pot. Only here on the Uncensored Voice.
With your host, Ricky Midnight.
Hey guys, this is Ricky Midnight. I am in the abyss.
And this is Zach Mullins, and I'm here today.
And we have JC Hollis on the line. He can't be in here right now, but he is on the line, and we're able to answer any of your questions. Our phone number is 210-549-6556. Hey, before we get started, Zach, I wanted to mention the 13 service members who died as a result of the Kabul, or however you pronounce that capital over there, who died during that suicide bombing. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's more than okay.
Okay, a suicide bomber detonated explosives in the Kabul airport where U.S. troops were searching evacuees who were rushing to get out of the country. At least 18 troops were wounded other than these 13 who died, and at least 170 civilians were killed. Let me go ahead and mention their names. One of them was from our home state, or where we're living now, which is Texas. He was actually from Rio Bravo, Texas. That's Marine Lance Corporal David Lee Espinoza. And we have Marine Sergeant Nicole Gee. She was 23, and David Espinoza was 20. Most of these people were 20 years old, which is going to make them about probably a couple of months old when this war started, right? Marine Corporal or Marine Staff Sergeant Darren Taylor, Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Noss, Marine Corporal Hunter Lopez, Marine Lance Corporal Riley McCullum, Marine Corporal Dylan R. Marola, I believe, Marine Lance Corporal Kareem Nakoi, Marine Corporal Deegan William Tyler Page, Marine Sergeant Johnny Rosario, Marine Corporal Humberto Sanchez, Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmidt, and Navy Hospital Corpsman Max Sovak, 23 of Berlin Heights, Ohio. So we salute you. I know my mother was out there earlier today, saluting you as well. She talked to several people. I couldn't have her on today, but she was out there waving the American flag, and I know most places I've driven by, have the American flag at half staff. Have you noticed that as well, Zach?
Yep. And I just want to say, until Valhalla, brothers, and don't worry, we got the watch.
We have the watch from here, gentlemen. So, Zach, did you have anything in particular you wanted to talk about today?
Well, while we're on the topic of this, I apologize ahead if I get a little bit emotional. This is something that is kind of near and dear to my heart, but the lack of accountability by our POTUS is asinine. And to the brave men and women that fight for our country, there is some leaders that are equally disgruntled with how the situation was handled. And the fact that when they spoke their opinion and they spoke out, they got relieved is embarrassing. I don't see how voicing an opinion can completely demolish over 20 years of service in the Marine Corps. It is an opinion. We are all people. We all have our own opinions, and you may not agree with mine. I may not agree with yours, but that does not take away the amount of time and effort and honor that you put into your job day in and day out when no one respects you like they should, or anything like that happens in the Marine Corps on the daily. You do not get the recognition you deserve nor warrant. And then the fucking cherry on top of the cake is the commanding officer gets relieved just because he said he wants people to be accountable. The same things that you tell him, you're accountable for your actions, you're accountable for what you do, you're accountable for your Marines, but then he just says, I want you to be accountable too, and then you fire him for that. That is completely out of line.
I agree. I think that's kind of what the liberal mindset is we're not going to be accountable for what we do, but we're going to hold you accountable. And if you even say we should be accountable, we're going to delete your account, or we're going to erase your, hinder your voice. We're going to stop your voice.
I mean, I don't even think that's a liberal thing at this point. I think that's just a everyone thing.
Well, I agree. I mean,
they're trying to cover it up so they're squeaky clean, and it's all about the dollar bills, it's all about the clicks, it's all about everything.
So this person who had a career in the military has now lost their career simply because they said that people should be held accountable.
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest, when you're going to pull out of a country like that, it's gonna be hell, especially with the internet and everything like that, and the people texting and the Twitter and the everything. Like, something's gonna get out. It's an intelligence issue, but at the same point in time, just be like, yeah, we could have done this better, and that's not an excuse, and that doesn't even make it nearly okay. But voicing your opinion on that you think it could be handled better, and then you get relieved of duty, is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous too. This has been a trend. I mean, really, I've seen it really amped up since year 2020, and a lot of changes has happened since that time. But probably one of the most ridiculous trends that we've been seeing is cancel culture, and like I've said on previous shows, it's creating a parallel economy. So conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, or constitutional fundamentalists, they're going to have to find alternative platforms and systems to use just to be able to participate in society.
But we will continue to find those alternative platforms, just like me and Rick have done, just like you have done. And I guarantee you they're not going to keep us down, because the comeback is always bigger than the setback.
Well, I've had people try. They've definitely tried. I got fired for doing the right thing. I got a job again. I got kicked off of Facebook multiple times for saying something that they didn't like. I'm back on. I've got kicked off of YouTube multiple times. I'm back on. They've deleted some of my videos. I'm back on. So it's we're going to come back. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you try to censor me. You will not be successful. I will speak my mind. So, it is what it is, and things are the way they are. But if we, stand up to the way our government is treating the people, then it won't be this way. And we just need more people to stand up.
And while we're on this subject of Marines and things like that, and it's not just about the government not taking accountability for their actions in, say, the troop movements. One of my friends, that's another reason why you guys haven't seen me, is because I've been pretty shaken up. One of my friends took his own life. He was a Marine brother of mine. So mental health is a big factor, and on the outside they say they're about all of these things, like, oh, we want them to get help, we're here for you, and things like that. Well, in my own personal life, I've asked for an appointment because I've had to suffer some loss and just grief, and I wanted general counseling. But it took me over 6 months to get an appointment. And if you can imagine the utter agony that you could go through once you're feeling depression or say that you want to kill yourself or anything like that, 6 months, waiting 6 months just to be seen by a professional. It is ridiculous.
I agree.
There is no excuse for that, especially when we live in one of the countries with the best economies in the world. And we're supposed to take care of our veterans, and we're supposed to revere them, because rightly so. But on the outside, they say that they do. But when the rubber meets the road, they're nowhere to be found. And so it's a pretty eye-opening thing, and you don't really see it because of how the media covers things. You don't see it unless you know someone that's affected, and it's kind of ridiculous, and it's only getting worse with this selective reporting that media is doing.
Think about it this way, people. I know it's kind of hard for someone who's never been in theater or has faced a traumatic experience. We'll just use an example. Let's use a quick example. If you were we'll just say you were in Vietnam. Most all of us have seen Vietnam movies, right? You're in Vietnam. You're walking through the jungles. You're sleeping in the jungles. This is your daily life, sleeping in the jungles, right? At every crack of a twig, you're afraid that the Viet Cong's going to come kill you, and you're going to have to get to your gun before they shoot you or they blow your head off with a mortar. At every single crack of a twig. We're not talking thunder or anything louder. Every single crack. And then all of a sudden, one day, just snap your fingers, boom, you're back at home life. You can't just turn that off. You can't turn off your nervous system like that. So this is what we're talking about PTSD is. It doesn't matter what it is. We've all, if any of us have served, whether you've been in the military, you've been a police, or you've been fire, you have PTSD in some fashion. Doesn't matter what anybody thinks, you have it. So I can tell you, because I've been in an experience where I had to actually act. I had dreams, and I wouldn't say nightmares so much, but I've had dreams, and I wasn't shot at. I did the shooting, but I had dreams of this kid that I had to shoot. I had no choice. I had to do it. So I'm firsthand. I can tell you, it's not the easiest thing to get over, and I have not been in theater. I've never been in theater. I've never been in war. So I can tell you firsthand, it's not the easiest thing to just put behind you. Matter of fact, I broke out in a rash. I told you about that rash I broke out in, and I went and saw a doctor just because of that. So I understand, and I feel for these people.
But you're also not alone with that. There's several support groups. One of the organizations that I am a part of is SATMAR, and it's a group on Facebook. You can look them up. It's called SATMAR. It's a group for Marines that are based out of the San Antonio area, and we come together. We have drinks. We do events. We do all sorts of things.
That is great.
Mm-hmm. And so when you feel like you're alone, you always have an outlet, and if you are a service member or anybody and you see me on Facebook, you see anything, you can always send me a message and I will get back to you. I will talk to you, because your mental health is really one of the most important things that you can do. I mean, I talk about financial wealth, financial health, and I talk about a whole different, like, physical health, but your mental health is by far the most important one of them.
I think there was a movie out recently which a lot of people have seen. Well, recently, I say recently, in the last decade or so, a lot of people have seen, which kind of goes towards that. That was the one with Chris Kyle. Remember American Sniper, right? And he had a hard time coming back home. And he kept going back out there because he just couldn't leave it behind. It's not because he enjoyed it. He wanted to be home. They all want to come home. It's just, it's not as easy as people think. And so mental health is a real thing.
I mean, at some point, being in theater is easier.
Yes.
Than being at home.
Yes. I can see it.
Being deployed is easier. I mean, when you're deployed, your wife really isn't coming down on you like she is when you're home. Mm-hmm. And you could be going through a depression when you're home and you just physically don't want to do anything. But when you're in theater, it doesn't matter if you're in a depression or not.
We're not picking on wives.
You're going to do it. And I don't mean that in a sense, but like the honey-do list is real.
I know.
And sometimes you don't want to do that because depression.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't. You want to get out of bed, but you just can't. You can't do it, and it's hard to basically do life. And then your wife she may like talk to you, but she's not going to yell you and yank you out of bed and make you do things. Just like in the military, that's what happens. Like there's no time for that. You got to do that because other people's lives are literally depending on you.
Exactly. J.C. Hollis, are you still there with us, sir?
Yes, sir. And I've just been thinking about these certain subjects, and I think what makes like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, what makes it so hard, I think, is the recurrence of any present stimuli. It kind of triggers adrenaline, and it makes people relive the experience of the trauma. And so it becomes like these thought bubbles, like emotional blockages that are hard to dissipate. So they keep reliving the experience, and they can have triggers, like something triggers the trauma, and they keep reliving it. I think that's like a pivotal point, is try to get beyond that. I mean, there's a lot of different therapies that people can try, but if any of our listeners are experiencing any of these things, I mean, we encourage you to get help, talk to someone. I mean, it can get really sad too, because even on Facebook, that I've seen about 3 people post like they were suicidal, they wanted to take their own life, and they listed ways they were going to do it. And so all these people are messaging them like, don't do it, like stop. And I've tried to message them directly, but it's a really serious thing. So I think a lot of it is just trying to gain closure of the traumatic event and move beyond it with each day, with new life experience, talking it out, processing the emotions in a group setting. That really helps it out, helps with the emotional blockage, and kind of smooths out the mind and heart. And if you do that enough, it really helps you move beyond it and live free from the emotional triggers that adrenaline again.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. A lot of it is talking to other people. Just talking about it helps. And I know for me, it just my little experience, talking helps a lot.
I don't know. I hate to be the wrench in the gears, but sometimes talking about it just makes it worse.
Might be.
And sometimes talking about certain things is great for you, and like it's great for me with certain things, but my best, I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, if you guys did not know. The best thing for me, like the most therapeutic thing for me, is hanging out with people that have went through similar experiences, and we don't even have to talk about it because we already know.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to bring it up, you don't have to say anything because we already know. So I was at my job, and I'm a salesman. I can't divulge anything because I signed an agreement that I wouldn't speak out on my job when I took it on any social media type platforms. But there was a Marine that came into my work, and he and we talked and we chatted, and like we were exactly like a kind of like a mirror of each other, and we came from completely different backgrounds, but like we already knew who each other were just on the same experiences that we shared, and we bonded. And like legitimately, I made a friend that day. Like he's got my number, and he's gonna come over to my house, and we're gonna cook some steaks.
Nice.
I mean, and he's going through the same things, and like he's just as upset about what happened in Kabul as I am, and with Colonel Sheffield and everything that's going on, and the fact that we can't even say that we don't like something without serious repercussions.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's just the way the woke culture has gotten. If they don't like what you say, then they want to actually stop you from saying it. And if they control the platform that you're on, then they're going to go ahead and delete your account or suspend your account. I've seen a lot of people saying that.
I'll just make a new account, baby.
Yeah, that's what we usually do, right? Make a new account.
Throwaway emails are a great thing. I learned that in Xbox Live
Yeah.
for that free 14-day membership.
Oh yeah, I have multiple accounts as well.
But all right, let's. I think we should kind of veer off this subject. JC, is there anything that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, yes, sir. So just for a kind of broad overview of news headlines that I've encountered recently today and this week. So we got Hurricane Ida approaching the coast of Louisiana, apparently on the same day and or the anniversary of when Hurricane Katrina hit. As with some other different issues about the Afghanistan failure or incident, there's been conflicting messages coming from different departments or different offices of the government. Newest development with that, so Joe Biden claims to have given a list of Americans to the Taliban. Now the State Department says they're countering that like there was no list. So we're hearing these conflicting messages. There's more numerous reports emerging of the government trying to pay farmers to destroy their crops. So it looks like they're trying to engineer a food shortage.
Is it that, or is it that they don't want to have to pay? Because I know that they pay subsidies when crops go bad, because if they have an abundance of crops, they have to pay subsidies, right? Or is it that they don't want to pay subsidies? Is that what it is, do you think?
I watched a video on it, and the guy explained it, and it was some like strange twist around logic that the government's using, and he said it's messed up, paraphrasing, but it's like hard to understand. But basically they're really trying to just tax them away, or they're paying for the whole crop because they don't want it in production. It's just something really twisted and something they shouldn't be doing. But it seems to be some kind of effort to control the food supply in some ways.
Isn't that going to cause inflation? Does that sound right?
I mean, it could cause inflation, but
Artificial, yeah.
Because I mean, even if we had a surplus, like say the farmers, they had just an awesome year, and they had so much of an abundance of their crop, especially with like fruits and vegetables. You could, at the very, very least, you could trickle it down to the states and their prison systems. So, because I've been a correctional officer, I'm sorry, and I've seen some of the food that they feed those inmates, like spoiled beans.
Is it like MASH, where you see them put slop on a plate? Is it like that?
No, they try to church it up. They really do. But like, it's spoiled beans. And the thing about that is that really gets me is they don't just feed it to the inmates. They feed it to the guards as well.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Like I've eaten spoiled beans that
That'd be for sacking lunch. A brown bag in it.
Well, but I mean some people just can't brown bag it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Like and that's one of the things that they talk about. They talk about when you sign up for that job. Oh, we'll provide you one meal on shift, but the quality of the meal is shit. Like,
well, I don't know if I'd want to even eat it. Let's say it wasn't even crap meal, right? Say it wasn't even a crap meal. I don't know if I'd want to eat it because it's made by the inmates, and you're there to keep the inmates in line against their will. So I don't know if I'd want to eat from them.
Well, see, that's a common misconception.
Well, okay.
Because, so you automatically think that we're there to keep the inmates in line. And it's true to a point, but the real reason why we're there is to keep the inmates safe.
From each other.
From each other.
From rapes and
from
killings and stabbings.
And from themselves. From suicide, because, I mean, when you have your free, because it's not just everyone's a rapist and everyone's a killer. Like, I mean, because, just take this for example.
Okay.
I had a friend in high school. We were 17, legally an adult in Texas, right? he went off campus for lunch, and he went with some of our friends, and one of our friends used their seatbelt.
Mm-hmm.
The other two didn't use their seatbelt, and he was driving because the lunch was like 45 minutes, so he was driving off campus to go to a restaurant to get food and come back.
Mm-hmm.
So he was going like 80 down 1604, and he lost control. He got in a wreck. 2 of our friends died.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he got 2 counts of manslaughter,
Mm-hmm.
and he served about 15 years of jail
Oh
time.
my goodness.
And the thing about it was he's just being a 17-year-old.
Mhm.
And if I was a judge and everything like that, my immediate thing was he knew that he killed 2 of his friends
Mhm.
by his reckless actions. That's punishment enough on his own. And then on top of that, they chose not to wear a seatbelt.
Well, okay, I have a question. Okay, when was this? 93? 95? When was this? When did you graduate?
I said high school, man.
Oh, I don't know how old you are, Zach. Jeez.
I was 5 years old
Okay,
in
so about
1995.
2005. I
Like
mean,
2007.
okay. So in 2007, they didn't take into account. They charged him with manslaughter. His lawyer or public defender must have really, really sucked, because he doesn't make the choice. If he was a driver, he doesn't make the choice for the people to not wear a seatbelt. He doesn't force them. Was he drinking?
Yeah, the toxicology
I don't see how they
reports
could
came
have
back
charged
from-
him with manslaughter, even involuntary. I don't see how they could have charged him. They made their choice of their own free will to not wear their seatbelt. I just don't see how they could have charged him with that.
And I mean, I don't know all the specifics
Wow.
of the case.
Was there drugs involved?
No, like, cause I there was no drugs, no nothing, and and that's the point. So the justice system is skewed to certain directions,
Wow.
and I mean, we could talk about this all day. I could talk your ear off, but it's always skewed. It seems to be skewed in one direction or the other, and it's never a fair and just system. And it's
Unfortunately,
always,
it's not. Yeah.
and it's skewed into one person's favor or the other, and it's not. And the most that I see is it's not in the form of justice. It's in form of a quick and swift resolution, so everyone can go home.
Wow. Well, JC, do you have a story similar to that you know about?
Court systems.
As far as like what he was saying, his friend right out of high school went straight into prison.
No, he was in high school.
Well,
Well, I know.
I had a
Okay, he
friend-
was still in high school. Yeah.
I had a friend named Tyler Lewis, and I've known him since like 4th grade. So whenever he was in high school, he was out driving with some of his friends, and I think him, the driver, I think they were all drunk. They weren't wearing their seatbelts, and he wrecked, and they all got killed. I think maybe one of them survived, or they all got killed. And that was a big deal, and that was in Bandera County. That's close to San Antonio. So that was a big deal. I mean, I know his family was traumatized. I mean, they were really seeking closure and like spiritual help for that. But I mean, that's one of the similar cases I can think of. And I don't think there's the court to charge like the driver or anything. I actually think they all died. So.
Well, yeah,
And
nobody could charge them.
The thing is, though, I think a cop was called for that call, like to go check them out, but he went and did something else, and he actually got in trouble because their logic was he could have prevented that.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Well, in my high school, when I graduated high school, I had a friend, best friend of mine since we were, I guess, in 4th grade, and all the way through high school. We were really, really close. And he and I, both of us, decided to drink and walk across the streets drunk, right? We weren't going to do anything stupid. We were just drinking, and we were going to walk across the stage drunk, right? So I walked across the stage drunk, and I went home with my mom and my aunt, right? And then he walks across the stage drunk, but he drove home. Well, from my understanding, he was about a block away from his house. Now, we lived far out in the country. He's a block away from his house, and he hit a car, a woman and her child. And if I'm not mistaken, the child died. So he got charged with, I guess manslaughter as well, voluntary manslaughter, and he went to prison right out of. I mean, the day he graduated high school, he went to prison. I never talked to him again. Unfortunately, we lost touch at that point. But yeah, so yeah, I can understand what you're saying. It's not everyone who goes to prison is a quote unquote bad person. Although it was bad that he was drinking and he cost someone their life. Mm-hmm. He did a bad thing, but he wasn't necessarily a bad person. Like your friend wasn't necessarily a bad person. So I can understand that. But what we were talking about earlier is I'm looking at like movies like The Rock, where there's prisons and stuff, right? And watching the documentaries. What I see is a guard basically is keeping the people in line, not by beating them or
well, I mean, when you look at movies, that's how it is. Well, it demonizes.
the guards are bad. But to make a guard eat food that the inmates make, I wouldn't trust it. I mean, heck, I hardly trust eating food made by the kids at Whataburger.
I'm gonna tell you though, so when we got fresh eggs, man, they'd make these egg sandwiches and they are so good, especially after a 16-hour shift. Mm-hmm. So good.
Did it have some mayonnaise on it?
They put mayonnaise on it, and then they put the government cheese on there.
Oh yeah.
and then I had an inmate there, and he'd throw some garlic on the butter when he's doing the toast.
Nice.
The toast for it.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
Yeah.
And he'd always put 2 eggs on mine.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I was always scared when I was in uniform and I was in my patrol car. I was always scared to go eat at a fast food because I don't know if the guy behind the counter is just the typical kid who's gonna spit in my burger, or he or she was a former inmate. I don't know if they're gonna spit in my food. I was always nervous, especially when I was in the drive-thru. I was like, because or not in the drive-thru, walking in. If I'm in the drive-thru, they can't see me when I'm ordering it, and they start to cook it and stuff like that. But I walk in and they see me, like, hey, I'm gonna go spit in that cop's food. I was always nervous about that.
I might have been one of those kids at 16.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, man, I worked at Subway one time, believe it or not, and we had some cops come in. Maybe that's why they visited our shops, because we made the food right in front of them.
Yeah. That's actually the only reason that I went to, well, Subway's not bad, but it's the only reason I went to places like Subway, because I can watch them make the food and watch if they're going to spit in it, They're not going to spit in front of me, so.
Hey, man, a little saliva never hurt.
Oh, it does. You can get hepatitis. You can get a lot of stuff from saliva.
It's just a little cancer. You just got to cut it out with your pocket knife.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And you get jaundice and your eyes start turning green or yellow or no, thank you. So, but yeah, back to what we were talking about earlier is in the prisons, the the guards aren't what we see on television, right?
Oh, definitely not.
They're not kind of like walking around. Remember the Green Mile?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Hanks played the good guy, and the other two play, especially the little fella. They played the bad guy. This is my impression of the prisons, right? I've always seen them as just the guards are just wailing on the people all the time, or at least poking at them. Orange is the New Black. Guards aren't the nicest people. What's that other show that's is a spinoff of Orange is the New Black? It's the Australian one. I forget what it's called. But that one's another one where the guards aren't the nicest people. So that's kind of the impression I get. But you're telling me it wasn't like that.
I mean, we can make this a entire episode, and I'll talk to you about it.
Maybe we will.
Because
there's
a difference between certain guards and guards, correctional officers, We don't. I think that's funny how that's the title is correctional officers, but no one looks at us as officers of the law. We don't get paid nearly as much as police officers.
Police officers don't get paid as much as you think they do.
They get paid more in San Antonio. They get paid way more than we do.
SAPD does, yeah.
Mhm.
SAPD gets paid really well.
And when I was younger, I was looking at when I was still in the Marine Corps, I was looking at whether I want to be a teacher
Mhm.
or I want to be a cop, and then I looked at the pay,
Yeah.
and
Cops
it's-
get paid more than teachers mostly.
I mean, no, actually, they were pretty much on par. It was almost even Steven. So
Oh, maybe they get paid better than I thought then, yeah.
Oh yeah, like it's even Steven. At least in the Northside School District in San Antonio, they pay their teachers extremely well. Like a teacher with no experience starts out making like $53K.
Oh, that's actually a little bit better than most police officers then.
Exactly.
Because
so-
as a police officer, I was making on about $20 an hour, maybe a little bit more.
and that's what led me kind of down the path away from doing police work into doing teaching. I mean, I've also since I started doing that, I kind of switched my career objective into criminal justice in general, and not just policing or not anything like that. But they pay pretty well in both fields, at least in San Antonio. San Antonio is a step above the rest of the I'd say Texas, in all honesty, in a lot of things. Like where I went to high school when I was a kid before I moved to San Antonio, the starting salary for their teachers were $33,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, man,
That's not a lot.
like a kindergarten teacher or a pre-K teacher in Northside gets paid more than that.
Well, my first job, let me just kind of date myself here. My first job that I ever got an actual salary on, not, me working on lawnmowers on the side and stuff. My first job was paying me as a manager 18 grand a year. I thought that was a lot of money. 18 grand. Man, I hit the jackpot.
For a high school student, though, that's awesome.
Well, I think I was 19 when I was getting paid that. So,
you got your first job when you were 19?
No. My first job was actually working at Grandy's. Now this dates me, but I know you've never heard of Grandy's.
Oh no, I've ate at Grandy's.
No, they've closed before you were born.
No, they didn't.
What Grandy's have you eaten at?
There was a Grandy's in San Angelo. So
There might have been.
Grandy's stayed around. I think until I was like 9.
Grandy's, okay.
They held on.
Like Grandma Grandy's.
Yeah, and then
Grandy's, right?
Because I can almost picture the logo in my mind.
With the grandma.
And then they had if my memory serves me correct, they had a green sign. It was
Okay, your memory's better than mine because I don't remember that.
like it was like a hunter green, like a deep green.
Yeah. Do you remember
Man.
Grandy's?
Man, now
JC?
you got me thinking. I got to look up the logo.
JC, do you remember Grandy's?
No, I do not remember Grandy's. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna look up Grandy's on my computer. Yes, that's it right here. Like that's the logo.
See, Grandy's is still
It's got
here.
the green logo with the red, and then there was a grandmother, an old grandmother on some of their logos.
See, look, it's green.
Yeah, it was green. It was a green building. Yeah, see, I worked for them. I was a line cook for them, and that was my first job.
I love their fried okra. That's the one thing.
It
that I
sounds like
liked.
they would make biscuits and gravy. Is that true?
Oh yeah. They made biscuits and gravy, and it was kind of weird. Grandy's was a mixture of two. Like, so if you go to KFC now, and that was probably the best comparison. You go to KFC now, everything is pre-made. It's pre-made. The corn is just warm it up. It's in a can. The potatoes just add water and it's mushed potatoes, right? Everything's pre-made except for the chicken. They dip it and then they serve it to you, right? And the rolls, they but it's already pre-made rolls. You're not making the batter. It's pre-made. Just pour the batter, put it in the oven, boom, it pops up, right? At Grandy's, it was a little different. It was half and half. Half of it's pre-made, and the usually the girls up front made the pre-made stuff. Me as a cook and the line cook in back, I made ribs from scratch. I made chicken breast from scratch. I made fried chicken from scratch. I mean, it was just weird. It was just a weird concept, but I liked it. I really liked it.
The best way I could describe Grandy's to my fellow millennials
Mm-hmm.
is a poor man's Cracker Barrel.
You know, that's another good one. Cracker Barrel was a lot like Grandy's, yeah. Cracker Barrel was a lot like Grandy's. So,
But Cracker Barrel is way better as far as breakfast. If you haven't ever if you haven't ever ate at Cracker Barrel, I got to turn you on to something.
Okay.
Their biscuits are amazing.
okay. Well, I worked there after high school. I mean, I after it was my junior and my senior year. Class would get out at 11 in the morning, and then the rest of the day I'd go to Grandy's and I'd work at Grandy's. So I would I never worked a breakfast shift, so I couldn't say that. But actually, you know what? I take it back. Grandy's was my second job. My very first job was working at Lackland Air Force Base here in San Antonio, Texas. I worked at a rent-it shop where you rent anything. So all of these people who came in there for housing, whether it be to the barracks or what not, they would actually rent, they have to rent a lawnmower, they have to rent a TV, they have to rent a VCR. Millennials, if you don't know what a VCR is, look it up. You're good at the internet. They'd have to rent Betamax machines. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's on the internet. But they would rent all these different things, and it was my job to rent them out. And you know what? Check this out, Zach, JC. I know this is going to be very, very strange. We didn't use computers to calculate the totals, the tax, or anything. We had to figure it out in our minds.
Well, I mean, I worked at Six Flags at 16, and we didn't have computers on there. We had to manually punch in things. So, like on our registers, we had to manually. That was my first job. I worked at Six Flags, and we had to manually punch in things.
90? No, that was 2006.
6.
2006. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the internet has been around for a very long time at that point.
Oh yeah.
We
well,
all had cell
very long
phones.
time. It had been around. Technically, the internet has been around since around, I think, 69, 68, something like that. And it was called the ARPANET, by the way, at that point. But it became mainstream in the early 90s to late 80s, early 90s. But where we are now, boy, it's a huge difference from where the internet was back then, even in the early 90s. Yeah, huge difference. But, so things have changed. But that's a whole other show. We could talk about that forever. I can tell you about all the jobs that I've had at all the fast food places I've ever had, and I can tell you about my experiences. Yeah, Ricky at the Uncensored Voice. So, but I can tell you about all the jobs I've had and all the experiences. Oh, and I wanted to do a review, but we'll have to do a review on another show.
Yeah, and we need to have J.C. Hollis on on another show because, man, I'm so sorry. I feel like I deboed this entire conversation.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. I got in like 4 different talking points there. It's totally cool.
Well, we need to get you to come to the actual studio. We have a mic set up here, and you can come to the studio and you can speak live to us. Well, you're speaking live now, but you can come to the studio.
Let's try for like the next 1 or 2 weeks. I'll come drive over there.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think, and send me your address so I can look it up on Google Maps so I know like the general location of where it is.
Definitely. So let me go ahead and wrap this show up real quick. My name is Ricky Midnight,
And I'm Zach Mullins.
and on the phone we have JC Hollis. So and that's from the Hollis Report. And you can look up his Hollis Report on YouTube as well as us on YouTube. Now look us up under Ricky Midnight. It was under the Uncensored Voice. I had to change it because of banning issues. But look us up under Ricky Midnight, and we'll see you next time. And God bless America, and God bless Texas.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Uncensored Voice.
Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And remember, on The Uncensored Voice, we tell it like it is.
So be safe, my friends, and may God bless America.